Well, today we begin our 40-day focus, 6-week study entitled Use It Well, stewarding God's many gifts. As Christians, we believe that everything we have has been given to us by God. James 1:17, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights. Or 1 Corinthians 4:7, what do you have that you didn't receive? Or even from science, we know that we never even create anything. There's conservation of mass. Everything we have was already here, even our bodies. Is nothing that we created. It was all provided for us. We believe everything we have is a gift, and so we want to use it well. As Paul writes in Ephesians, he says, "Be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity." And that is what we want to do. Over the course of this study, we will list a number of different gifts that we need to steward well. And we're going to start with time, that we need to steward our time well, really, because every other gift that we would steward requires time. You could also say it requires our life. So we want to use our time well. We want to use our lives well. To begin our study, our first question is just to consider what difference would it make in our lives if we consider everything a gift, everything a stewardship, or if we consider it as ours just to be used however we want. What difference would that make?
Yeah, I think using the things we've been given as gifts and not just things that belong to us can change the entire way we approach them. I think that if we view what we've been given as gifts from God, we will not want to squander them at all. We won't want to waste them. We will want to be careful with the way that we utilize them. I think even the way in which we frame it in our minds can change. So instead of thinking of things as ownership or things that we own, we think of them as stewardship and something we want to steward well for the glory of God. And really, if we think about it, all of the things we've been given are not ours to begin with. And for some people, they might think that we are freed from responsibility because of that, but I actually think we should treat things with even more care and responsibility when we think about them as gifts rather than just squandering them and doing what we want with them. And I think this can be particularly hard when we feel as though we've earned the things that we've been given. So, Steve, I'm wondering, what helps us remember that our resources aren't ours?
I think of Psalm 90, which is a prayer. We think it was written by Moses, or at least some of the Bible translations say it was a prayer of Moses. And verse 12 of Psalm 90 is a prayer to, Lord, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. The idea of numbering something, to me, is a reminder that you only number something if you know that it's finite, if you know that there's not an unlimited amount of it. And so the fact that we need to pray this, the fact that this is a prayer, I think is an indication that we tend to be forgetful. We tend to go through life, I know I do, I think many of us do, and we don't realize how quick time goes by until it's already gone. There are many situations in life where maybe you're looking through a photo album and you're looking at your children or your own life and events. And I think that when we are thinking about a moment in time like that, our minds go back to it and I wish I could recapture that. If we really knew in those moments, I wish I knew that was going to be the last conversation I was going to have with that person. I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have appreciated that time more. I wish I would have taken advantage of these things or not done these things instead. We all go through these moments, but Psalm 90 is reminding us that we're never going to have this day again. We're never going to have this moment again, and we can fill our time, we can fill our day with something that is noble and glorious, or we can fill it with something that is wasted time. We can fill our lives with gratitude, we can fill our moments with thankfulness, or we can fill it with ingratitude and grumbling and complaining. Either way, we don't get this moment back. And so I think that's why Jesus tells, or one of the reasons why Jesus tells the parable of the rich fool in Luke 12 about this man who's like, I'm going to build all these things because I've got an infinite amount of time. And it's a reminder that we don't have an infinite amount of time. Or in James 4, where it talks about, look, don't boast about tomorrow. It's not saying don't make plans. Of course, make plans, but understand that time is in God's hands and we don't get these moments back again. So all of these things, I think, are indications that we're going to forget. We're going to miss this moment. And so take advantage of it when it's there and realize that nothing is ever promised to us except for God's love and His presence. And those are really, really amazing things. But the time we have, make the most of it and don't squander it or waste it. I'm curious what you all would say about this idea, though, of wasted time. What is wasted time? What would be a waste of time? How do we know the difference between wasting time or stewarding our time and making a good use of the time?
I think the best place that I could look is, how did Jesus spend his time? His time on earth was finite, even though he's infinite. But he had a limited number of days here, a limited number of moments. And what did he do with those? And it really seems to be others oriented. He came not to be served, but to serve. He didn't. None of his ambition was selfish. All his ambition was for others. And of course, he didn't have any sin, so sin would be wasted time. And so I think the more that we can lean into how can we make the most of this moment to improve the lives of those around us, improve our world, bring glory to God, instead of it focusing on ourself. Now we have to be careful with that, I think, because you could easily lead yourself to burnout down that idea. If you're constantly pouring out, you might be like, well, then I can't sleep, right? Because that's time that I could be serving someone else. I can never take a vacation. But there again, in Jesus, we see him pull back, have time by himself. We see him sleep, or we see, Old Testament, Elijah goes after he has the incident on the mountain. He goes out into the wilderness, and God's like, take a nap, and he gives him this rest and food. And so there is a time that we need to recharge. But the point of recharging isn't. Even that isn't selfish, if you look at it the right way, right? The point of recharging is so that I can re-engage in service. But soldiers can't spend all their time on the front lines, right? You are out there, you have a job to do, but that if you're out there 100% of the time, then you're going to be less effective over the whole course of your life. So in terms of wasting time, I would just say, let's look at Jesus and aim for that. What we hope is you consider how you spend your time and your moments, how you're going to spend the rest of your day today, how you spend your minutes at work, how you spend your relaxation time with friends and family, that you will have conversations now that enlighten how to really use those moments, primarily for others in glorification of God.